I, 20 female, have a brother, Jake, 31. Jake has a girlfriend, Macy, 28, and they have a baby girl. Since Macy gave birth, she's lived with my mom and me. She has a lot of health issues that were amplified by pregnancy and labor, so we've been taking care of her. Jake still lives in their apartment on his own and comes over every so often. He's putting his all into work right now to progress his career. From what I can tell, he's already doing quite well, and they're not financially struggling. He owns their apartment and can afford to give them most of the things they desire, but says he isn't yet where he wants to be with his career. Meanwhile, Macy's depressed and struggling physically too. She's on several medications, and she barely leaves the house. My mom and I do 90% of the childcare because Macy isn't in a state to be doing much, although she tries her best and feels very guilty for how much we've had to do to take care of my niece. My mom and I are happy to help, and Macy's like a sister to me now. We're willing to do anything for her, but seeing her so lonely and unhappy is heartbreaking. My brother came over last night to see his daughter for literally 20 minutes. Then he stood up to leave. I followed him out and asked where he always was and why he wasn't here with his wife, who was clearly struggling and taking care of his daughter. He said he works hard and is too tired to come all the way over here after work every day, so he just comes when he can. Bear in mind, it's a 30-minute drive from their apartment to my mom's house. I said one day, his daughter won't even recognize him, and neither will his wife, because he doesn't try to be here. He said it isn't my business, and if I'm unhappy helping them with the baby, then I should just stop, and that no one's forcing me. I said I wasn't unhappy taking care of my niece, but it's heartbreaking seeing his girlfriend alone in that state and him not being there for her or their daughter. I said he comes to see them probably once a week for 20 minutes, and it's not good enough unless he's the freaking president of this nation and doesn't have any time at all. But he's not. He works a 9 to 5, so it's not like he's busier than the regular person. I said he should have been smarter and not have had a child if he wanted to put his career over his family, because now he isn't much of a father. He said he isn't taking advice on how to be a father from a kid who has no clue anything she's talking about, and that none of this is my business, so I should keep my 2 cents to myself from now on. I said I don't have to be older or a parent to know he's a useless father, and that his wife and daughter are incredibly unlucky to have a loser like him. I walked into the house before he could respond. I know I was mean, but I don't really regret it, and I don't think it was unwarranted. But my mom said, although I was right, I took it too far and may have pushed my brother away. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. How is it none of your business? You're literally living in the middle of it. It doesn't sound like your brother wants the baby or his girlfriend. All you did was very appropriately call that out. I wonder if there are some things going on in their relationship that he hasn't disclosed to you. It's extremely suspicious that your sister-in-law has effectively moved out of their apartment and he hasn't. Thank you for advocating for your vulnerable sister-in-law and niece. I honestly think that their relationship is doomed. OP is right. His daughter's going to only consider him a sperm donor, not a father. I read this wondering why he doesn't stay the night once in a while or pick them up to stay at his apartment. He's acting single is what he's doing. They're living as if he's a nearly absent baby daddy, paying child support. Agreed. When I got near the end and read that he's only working a 9 to 5, my jaw dropped. I'll be honest, a 30-minute drive twice a day can really put some wear and tear on a vehicle and cost a lot on gas. But to stay for only 20 minutes and to only visit once a week? That's deadbeat behavior. He needed a reality check. He clearly doesn't want to be around any of you and wants to blame it on his piddly 9 to 5. Your brother is a deadbeat. Who wants to bet that bro will soon have or already has a new girl? Yep, he's got another family. I wonder if his girlfriend knows. This so super sounds like your sister-in-law's the side piece. 20 minutes a week? And she's okay with that? 20 minutes a day is neglect, for gosh sakes. It's time for his girlfriend to take him to court for child support. Hit him where it hurts. I have 2 children with my ex. Our daughter's kindergarten birthday was the first birthday we weren't together. So we agreed that I would plan everything and he would pay for it. He said I could spend as much money as I wanted, and since our daughter was taking the breakup badly, I wanted to go all out for her special day. Despite acting like he wanted no part in the planning, he was an absolute nightmare. I had his credit card, and he originally said he didn't need me to tell him everything I was spending money on, but then he suddenly started being nasty about it. He kept demanding I tell him everything I'd booked and would criticize every little thing. I didn't care about him wanting input into the party, but how he spoke to me made me feel dirty for needing to have him pay for everything. I only sucked it up because our daughter knew about some things I had arranged for her already, which I would have had to cancel if I started fighting with him. Now our son's toddler birthday is next month, and my ex has once again suggested I plan the party and he'll pay for it. I refused because I won't let him make me feel the way he did while I planned my daughter's again. I told him he would need to plan the party and that I wanted no part in it. He has apologized for how he behaved, and he claims he'd never do it again. Granted, he has been a lot nicer to me recently, but I'm still not comfortable putting myself in that position again. Since I won't plan the party, he's making up BS claims that I favor our daughter over our son. He's also said if I don't plan a party, our son wouldn't have one, since he's too busy to plan it. But he also could always ask his mother for help. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It's your son's second birthday. Have a cake and celebrate at home. Your son isn't going to remember any of this. But take pictures of him in the cake so you can show him when he's older. Info. How much did you spend on your daughter's birthday? Unless you went completely crazy on the birthday, I'd say not the idiot. But if you ended up renting a circus or something, yes, I'm exaggerating, but you get the point, then you are the idiot. If you did wind up spending an excessive amount on a kindergartner's birthday, then I can see your ex getting upset about it. But for a toddler, as others have said, a cake and a small party at home would be plenty. You don't need to hire magicians or clowns or bouncy castles, for example. I spent around £700. He wasn't upset about the money. He was upset about something unrelated and used the party as an excuse to be an idiot. That doesn't sound like a good idea. Why are you booking venues for a 5-year-old's party? Bizarre. I suspect the ex didn't anticipate the £700 price tag for a kid's birthday. If you really need to throw the party together and he wants you to plan it while he pays for it, then get a budget from him and stick to it. Then he has nothing to complain about. You can easily throw a toddler's birthday party for less than £50. OP, you spent his money and didn't like that he got upset. What's interesting is that you were very vague about the party. You mentioned he wanted to know about everything I'd booked, which suggests over-the-top spending, which makes everyone the idiot here. You for taking advantage, and him for trusting you with the means to screw him. I, 28 female, am engaged to my fiance, Dave, 28 male. This week, I went to my hometown and invited him to come with me so he could meet my family. He's met my brothers and mom, but not my dad, an extended family. When I was 16, my dad cheated on my mom with a very well-known escort and then married her. Not only was I going through a tough time dealing with our family being torn apart, but I also had to deal with all the ridicule of having an escort stepmom. People weren't as open with her work back then, and it was a nightmare for me when people found out, especially since my stepmom was very vocal and confident about her work. I changed schools in my senior year because I couldn't handle everyone making fun of me because of my dad and stepmom. My older brother got suspended once because another kid joked about hiring our stepmom for a good time, and they got into a big fight. I stayed with my mom full-time and barely spoke to my dad or stepmom. My dad wanted equal custody of me and my brothers. They were 17 and 14 years old at the time, but none of us wanted to live with him and his wife, and he couldn't really force us to split our time for him. He also gave up making an effort to see us at all, when we said we didn't want to live with him half the time, so we barely saw him. When I finished high school, I left our hometown and moved to a big city for college. My brothers also moved there, and our mom would come to visit us all the time, so I didn't bother going back to our hometown. Dad didn't offer to see us, and none of us have been back home. So this week was the first time I've seen my dad in about 10 years. My auntie was hosting a dinner party so everyone could meet my fiance, and of course my dad and stepmom were there. I was polite to them, but it was awkward, and my fiance was doing all the talking. Stepmom asked us when and where the wedding was, and my fiance told her. It's on the 2nd of December. She said, "Wow, you still haven't sent out invites?" My fiance looked at me awkwardly, and I answered, "We have sent out invites, but our guest list is limited. We're only inviting our closest friends and family, so I couldn't make space for you and Dad. I'm sorry, we aren't inviting anyone we aren't super close to. We'll be having 30 guests in total." She just smiled and said she understood. The next day, my dad visited my fiance and me at our Airbnb, and he asked me why he and his wife weren't invited to our wedding. He said I'm his only daughter, and he'll feel like a failure if he can't walk me down the aisle. I said, "It makes me sad that my dad won't walk me down the aisle either, but I'm not going to make a fuss about that tradition when we've barely spoken since I was 16. We don't have a father-daughter relationship, and I won't pretend like we do just for my wedding." He started crying and asked how long I planned to punish him for what had happened between him and my mom. He said he feels like he lost his children 12 years ago when he divorced my mom, and now I'm putting the final nail in his coffin. I told him, I don't hold resentment over his divorce from my mom and everything he did, but the fact of the matter is that we aren't close anymore, and I'm not interested in faking it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your dad is feeling like a failure because he is a failure of a dad. The audacity of people. I can't believe you broke up your family like that, hooking up with an escort and expecting you to have him walk you down the aisle like some kind of upstanding father. Ridiculous. Even if you overlooked the cheating, breaking the family apart, and all the bullying endured, he stopped trying to make amends. It was on him to come to his children, but it probably just came easier on his pride to give up. Well, he won't have to worry about that much attention. He's not even invited to the wedding. Also, it didn't seem that the public attention and shame were that big a deal for him the first time. Certainly not for his wife, who seemed to flaunt her vocation. No, the ones who suffered, as usual, were his kids. OP's been through enough with this couple. Here's hoping she and her fiancé have a wonderful life together. No, it's not about the public attention at all. He had fantasies that he still had a relationship with his daughter, and that bubble just burst. The full consequences of his decisions just crashed down on him. OP, you handled it perfectly honestly. There's a vast spectrum between resentment and a healthy relationship, and your dad doesn't get to guilt you into a relationship that doesn't exist. Don't let the consequences he's now fully realizing weigh on you. I, nearly adult female, baked a cheesecake for my family to share, and I was letting it cool down when my mother cut herself a slice. It was still hot, so it crumbled in on itself. I was really upset because I had worked super hard to make it, and I was hoping to take photos. Also, the cheesecake doesn't taste right when hot. So I yelled at her. Why would she do that? Especially since I already told her that the cheesecake needed to cool for 8 hours. My mother says since she paid for the ingredients and pays the bills that let me use the oven, I have no right to complain about it. Also, if it's for the family, why does it matter if it tastes better when cool? It's her choice as the person who wants to eat it. And she grounded me for being disrespectful and a selfish witch. My brother's on her side and says I need to get over it. Why do I care so much over a cake? Who cares? We all ate it anyway. Isn't that what you wanted? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Excuse you for wanting to prepare the cheesecake properly and allow it to cool as it should. Does your mom have so little patience and respect for the effort you made to make it that she couldn't wait until it was ready? I don't think she would die from not having a finished cheesecake at that exact moment. Imagine if she'd eaten not fully cooked chicken or some other meat dish just because she wanted it right then. She's done that before, where she tasted things before they were done and had gotten mad at me for wasting ingredients, making crap food, or not cooking it right. Stop cooking for the family. They take it for granted. OP, you need to seriously consider this. If you enjoy baking, do it at a friend's house where they might appreciate it, but never ever cook or bake anything for your ungrateful family again. She called me a selfish witch? This alone makes your mom the idiot. No mother should call their child this for trying to kindly bake something for the family to share. This doesn't look like a single episode, and I bet it's something that goes well beyond cooking. Instead of supporting your efforts, helping you, teaching you, etc., your mother's just trying to belittle you and whatever you do. It's also concerning that she jumps straight into my house, my ingredients, my oven. Does this kind of thing happen also with other parts of your life? This looks very much like emotional neglect, which is also a form of abuse, often related to narcissism, by the way. You may want to look into this. Agreed. Grounding you for getting upset and speaking your mind is a huge overreaction on her part. I'm sorry you're dealing with all this. Honey, you didn't do anything wrong. For me, it was the onion soup. It was a big batch of onion soup I made from scratch, cutting 5 cups of onions by hand, and then left simmering while I babysat for a few hours. When I got home, it was all gone. My parents and brother ate it all. 55 years ago. I'm still angry. Tell your greedy mother that she has half a century of resentment to look forward to, and don't bake in her house anymore. My parents are immigrants from India who've lived in the U.S. for 20 plus years. For some background info, India was colonized by the British for a long time, and that, in combination with various mutually unintelligible languages, led to English being widely taught in schools and spoken. My parents, typically for educated people, are fluent in English. She and I met at a company event for the company she and my parents work for, so she's well aware of where my parents work. Anyhow, my girlfriend is planning to meet my parents soon and asked if I would translate between her and them. I asked what she meant, and she said she assumed they didn't speak English. I pointed out, not even withstanding the region's history, my parents have lived here for longer than she and I have been alive and work white-collar corporate jobs. So it's common sense to realize they speak English perfectly well. She said she didn't realize, and this annoyed me a bit. She said it's unfair of me to be annoyed about an honest mistake, but I think it's a fair thing to be annoyed about. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. So she was clueless and/or latched into insulting stereotypes about immigrants. If this matches larger patterns you don't like in her behavior, you can consider whether she's the kind of person you should be with. She sounds unintelligent. It's worth being annoyed about, but how much is up to you. Don't ever attribute to malice what can be attributed to ignorance. It's a dumb question and a dumb mistake for your girlfriend to have made, but it doesn't mean there's any malice in it. She's probably just nervous about meeting your folks and overthinking, which led to her tossing a bit of logic out of the window. Try not to be so hard on her. You are the idiot if you continue to hold this against her, I think.